So if you're seeing this, you probably have a mother wound. I'm going to talk a little bit about the mother wound because I have one as well, and it's one that I have healed. And as a spiritual counselor, life coach, inner child healing practitioner. And so if you feel depleted in the presence of your mother or your father or your family, it is a sure sign that you are giving yourself away in the name of guilt. You've been programmed so deeply to believe that blood is thicker than water and that family comes first and that no matter what, your parents did everything they could for you and so you owe them. And I'm going to invite you to release the curse of owing anyone anything. If you don't feel comfortable in the presence of your mother, because you feel that you have to walk on eggshells, because you feel that your connection is inauthentic, because you can't really say how you feel, because you'll be silenced, because you'll be disregarded, because you'll be talked out of your own experience, they cannot take accountability. They cannot take any responsibility. They blame, they gaslight, they manipulate, they make everything about them. They're reactive, they're explosive, they're confrontational, they're combative. Then you need to understand that the invitation in this relationship, whether it's your mother or your father or anyone, is to be authentic yourself, to be honest about how you feel. And if that connection feels inauthentic, feels forced, feels triggering, you need to acknowledge that and you need to honor the way that you feel and value yourself and the way you feel and put yourself first before anyone else, no matter what that means. For me, I had to stop speaking to my mother. I don't speak to my mother and I love my mother. Like on a soul level, I'm so grateful for her. And I know that she is playing the part perfectly for me, for my spiritual awakening and my evolution and coming into my power. And learning to love myself and trust myself and really value and honor myself. Like she's playing the role for me to do this. And so in truth, it's a gift. Like I'm not upset with my mother. Like I'm grateful for her and for her playing this role for me. But I'm just not going to play hot potato with the guilt anymore. I'm just not going to feel bad and inadequate as I usually feel because I cannot meet her expectations or her standards. I do not want to feel responsible for her well-being or her emotional state anymore. Her life is not mine to fix. Her emotions are not mine to manage anymore. Although all of my life growing up through enmeshment, which is like codependency on steroids, I did think growing up that I was responsible for my mother. And in a sense, I was, because my mother was very mentally unstable. So I needed to have this hypervigilance and to try to manage her emotions to make sure that she was safe because she was suicidal and I needed to make sure that I was safe. And so at a time that worked, but I just can't continue that anymore. And I learned that that's not my place anymore. And so although I'm grateful that that experience created the empath that I am and the healer that I am and has brought me to this place of healing and personal empowerment that I now have and this wisdom that I now have, I understand that the child within me never fully felt truly seen, accepted, loved unconditionally by mom or dad, because I also don't have a relationship with my dad, but that's another story. And so my biggest, the biggest thing in my healing journey when I decided to cut contact with my mother, which I felt so overwhelmed with guilt because I'm Latin and my mom was always like, if I didn't call for a day, oh, se te olvida que tienes madre, and like all this thing, like the guilt was real. I'm aware that my mother has a guilt wound, a deep guilt wound, and she struggles with the themes of consciousness, of grief, and apathy, guilt, inadequacy, rejection, abandonment, all the things. And so I understand and I have a lot of compassion for my mother. But what happens when someone has a guilt wound is they try to transfer their guilt over to you. So my mother unconsciously, like God bless her soul, this is why Jesus says, forgive them for they know not what they do, really translates into forgive them because they are unconscious. So my mother is deeply unconscious, and that's okay. Like, I honor her and her soul and her path, and I understand that she's on her journey. But when someone is deeply unconscious and they have a guilt wound, what they try to do is they try to transfer you over their guilt. And so my mother was always making me feel guilty, making me feel like I wasn't enough, I wasn't doing enough, I wasn't pretty enough, all the things. So the guilt that I felt, because I've been so conditioned and this guilt is like hardwired into me, the guilt that I felt when I decided to cut communication with my mother was so overwhelming. I would cry for days. Like, I would think, oh my God, what if my mom dies? And I decided to stop talking to her. Like, oh my God, the guilt that I would feel. And you see, it was just guilt on guilt on guilt. I had to do something that I was being called to do within myself, within my inner being. And one of the reasons why my mother and I stopped talking was because my stepfather was I don't like this term, a peeping Tom on me. It's called a voyeur, but not everyone knows that term. Peeping Tom seems so innocent, and it's not innocent, okay? It really traumatized me that my stepfather would look at me undress and touch me inappropriately and basically sexualize me and objectifying me. And it was very traumatizing for me within my own home since the age of I was 12 or 13 until I left, like right before I turned 18, because I just couldn't take it anymore. And my mom to this day, like, sides with him and blames me for it and says that basically I'm making up the whole thing. And so part of what I needed from my mother was for her to like believe me, for her to like acknowledge my experience, for her to like choose me, honestly. And she didn't. Just like my great grandmother didn't choose my grandmother when the same thing happened to her, because this is ancestral stuff that we're dealing with here. Okay. And my mother's response is, my own father used to spy on me as I got undressed. Oh, okay. So that's totally normal then. So this is like, you see what I'm talking about? But what I needed from my mother was for her to choose me, and she didn't. So the invitation was for me to choose myself. And I wrote on my mirrors, I choose me. And every day when I felt the guilt for not calling my mom, for not fixing things again, for me not showing up at her house again like she expects me to apologize to her for something I didn't even do, I just said, I choose me. I choose me. And I chose that little girl inside of me before my mother and before anyone else. And if you're going through this experience, that is the invitation for you. I hope you have the courage to choose yourself.